Hello, everyone. Sarah here from Mappy Hour. Welcome to another one of our Maker Series. Very excited for tonight. We're talking to Sam from SAMBOB. And before we get started, a few announcements. One is if you're watching this and you're based in New York City, DC, Denver, Chicago, Seattle, or Bentonville, Arkansas, go to the website and join a chapter because we're doing live events in all those cities this year. And we'd love to meet you in person. And the second announcement is thank you to Sierra Nevada for supporting this series. They have helped us for the second year in a row make this a reality and support indie makers and doing fun stuff with Mappy Hour. So we're super appreciative. And announcements are now over. I'm excited to introduce Sam coming in from Portland. Hey, Sam.
Hey, how's it going?
Great. Excited to be
Great.
chatting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know, let's dive in with just like you as a person and your connection to the outdoors, because Mappy Hour is all about helping people find the great outdoors. So
Yeah.
I'd love to hear, did you grow up with the outdoors or is it something you found as an adult?
Yeah. I grew up in Western Massachusetts and like I spent a lot of time outside and we went camping probably like a handful of times, but it wasn't like the kind of thing that my parents were really into or anything. It was more of like a stress point for them maybe to go camping. But so we did it a few times. It was fun, but it wasn't something that like really stuck with me. And then after college, I started I was a geology major in college and then sort of switched over to living organisms and started studying birds. And found that that was a way that I could spend more time outside. There were seasonal bird like field tech positions that I was able to get that let me spend a lot more time outside and spend time in the West, which I hadn't really spent that much time having grown up in Massachusetts. And so that's sort of where my love of like the mountains in the West and hiking and sort of slowly getting into camping and stuff through a lot of those jobs where we would sort of be sent off into sometimes remote areas like working in the Sierras, working in Sierra Nevada, and doing point counts, counting birds, or went down to Costa Rica and caught birds there. And that was sort of really like I really got into it in my early 20s, just being outside and like doing a lot of hiking mostly. And that sort of continued through my 20s, doing these seasonal field positions. And, they last like 3 or 4 months at a time. So I was kind of going all over the place. And I wasn't even doing that much camping. I, usually live at a field station and then you hike all day and then you just come back. And so not till I started this field work that I'm currently working on pretty frequent, like annually, where I do national park surveys of national parks in Utah and Colorado for birds out there. Where I'm contracted through. I work for the University of Delaware, but we're contracted by the Park Service to do surveys out there, and a lot of that work required some backpacking and more camping and stuff. And so that's sort of when I sort of got more into backpacking and into the world that I'm in, sort of on social media now. But yeah, not till my 30s basically did I like do any backpacking, hardly at all, or much camping. But yeah, I really dove into it.
That's awesome. No, thank you for sharing that because I feel like a lot of people in our community didn't grow up in the traditional like Boy Scouts or whatever and are learning as adults. And so, yeah, it's awesome to
Yeah,
hear stories of just how you progressively find it.
yeah, and there's a lot of people who, especially in like the through hiking world, it's a lot of through hikers are early 20s. They're just out of college, they go on these through hikes and it's whatever. But I mean, there's plenty of people like I didn't know what through hiking was until I was 33 or something. And so it is nice that like you can still come into it and like get into that world at a older age.
At the old age of 30.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a lot of follow-up questions. I think we should pause for a second and maybe do you want to define through hiking just in case there is someone watching who doesn't know what
Sure.
it is? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there are many definitions of it, but a through hike is usually somebody who goes on a long distance hike. So like the Pacific Crest Trail, the Appalachian Trail, the Continental Divide Trail are the three most popular ones in the United States. But I think there's like 11 national scenic trails that people could conceivably like through hike, and there's ones internationally, and it's usually just a long hike, and it's usually a continuous path. But people, there's various definitions of what counts as a through hike. But for me, it would just be like going on a long hike, and it's usually a established route. But that's not always the case. There's things like the Hayduke Trail, which I think people might say they through hiked, but it's more of a route through Utah that you kind of follow generally, but it's somewhat self-conceived, and you get to make a lot of decisions about where you go. Yeah.
And I think that the Appalachian Trail and the Pacific Crest Trail are great examples. I feel like a lot of people have heard of those.
Yeah.
Very popular. Cool. And so you were working on this bird research and in these field stations. How did you end up getting connected with the through hiking community? Did you do a long distance hike?
No, I didn't. I still haven't, and I really want to, but it's a bit off. It's not possible right now with a baby and a business and a house and all the things that we have going on these days. But it's something I hope to do at some point. I got into it probably just from getting into backpacking and just looking at gear, and it's the people who do the most backpacking are usually people who are really into through hiking, and so you can kind of glean a lot of information off of them, whether it's on Reddit or blogs or gear lists and things like that. And so that's kind of how I got really into just like what gear is out there, and I herniated a disc in my back like a decade ago or more, and have had back problems since then. And so figuring out lightweight gear has been something that like practically makes sense for me. Or at least I tell myself that. And so that's sort of how I've gotten into, a lot of the sort of through hiking world, and despite not being a through hiker myself.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of overlap between like ultralight and through hiking. And
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So have you always been super into gear? Like, or is that something newer that you found an interest
this is
in?
the first like hobby that has been gear heavy. With bird stuff like binoculars and scopes and stuff or something that I know a lot about, but there's not nearly as many pieces as you need for like theoretically need for a hike or a backpacking trip. But it's something that's just like, it's not that hard to get into, at least for me. It's a fun thing to like, experiment with and read about. And
I also feel like people are extremely passionate about it, so that also makes it fun.
Yeah, totally.
So, all right. So tell us about how you got into sewing. In general, was it because you wanted to make gear, or did you have a history of like knowing how to have this specific skill previously, and then you wanted to apply it?
Yeah, no, I had never sewn before like late 2020, basically. It's like a COVID hobby, basically.
Okay.
COVID hobby turned business. I've always like been into art. Like I took a lot of art classes, did a lot of art stuff in high school and some in college, but never really pursued it like outside of school that much. But I always have enjoyed it. And I wouldn't say like, maybe most people wouldn't consider sewing an art, or art necessarily. It doesn't always fit into that category, but it's sort of in the same line of like crafting and things like that. And I don't know, it just sort of was something that was kind of interesting to me. Like we had a sewing machine in our basement for a while. It was my wife's mom's, and we didn't know how to use it. So we took a road trip out. We were living in Utah. We took a road trip back to here, where we had a really good friend who learned to sew, who sewed a lot, and we just wanted to learn to sew. So we brought the sewing machine with us. We're like, okay, we're gonna make some fleece tops, because it was just like, we're just like get some cheap fabric from Joanne and make some tops. And so she taught us my wife and I, how to read a pattern, like put a pattern together, figure out what size you're going to use. And then, you know, with any piece that you end up sewing, you learn just random skills about sewing. And so I just did that and liked it. And the next thing I made, I was like, I'll just make some fleece shorts for some reason. I was like, I thought that would be like a fun thing, you know, like fleece shorts aren't really
Yeah,
a thing, but
they
and
could
then
be.
I had some friends who like wanted them because they were like cross country skiers, so they wanted to wear them over their tights and like have, you know, whatever. So I just made a bunch for them, and then I like got into these making just like the classic like pullover that I make a lot of now, and it slowly just became this thing where like friends wanted them, and then like friends of friends, and then just like strangers, and it just like snowballed through Instagram, basically. Uh, but the intention was originally like, yeah, just to make gear for myself. Like I wanted to make like an insulated wind jacket was something that I just thought would be a cool thing to do. And I was like, you know, there's Ripstop by the Roll is a company that sells a lot of that kind of fabric and or just like technical fabric. And yeah, I just was looking for something to do. We were living in Utah and we didn't really have any friends, and I was hiking a lot, but like there's only so much of that you can do. So it seemed like something to kind of throw myself into a bit.
That's so okay. So it's totally random. You decide to learn how to sew, and then at what point were you like, this is a business and not just like this random hobby that I have?
Yeah, I guess like when it was a lot of random, like complete strangers buying stuff from me, and I had to like start worrying about whether I needed to pay taxes and whether
Yeah,
Venmo was going to kick me off for not being a business account, and or you know things like that.
yeah,
And I don't know. I guess when I felt like I needed to have like a separate brand, like it for a while, it was just like me making stuff, and then you know just it made more sense to create a different Instagram account and come up with a name and logo and but it was probably like I mean it was within 6 months of starting learning to sew. It was really quick. It was I mean I give it a lot of credit goes to Garage Grown Gear who randomly found me on Instagram and included me on some like sticker giveaways and then like a cottage and you know just they incorporated me into some stuff and I got a lot of followers through that, and so there's just a lot of positive feedback that was really helpful for me, and they've done that for a lot of businesses, just really small businesses that yeah, so a lot of credit to them for that.
that's awesome. I actually think that's how I found you was through the Garage Grown Gear Instagram.
Yeah,
So
yeah, totally,
yeah.
yeah. Hey.
Hey, yeah, check them out. So you recently had a kid, and I want to dive into that a little bit. Like, how has that affected your ability to balance all the things? Because you still have a full-time job, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so I
Yeah,
work for the University of Delaware as like a research associate. So I do research for them doing bird stuff, and it's a full-time job, but it luckily doesn't require 40 hours a week. I have just a flexible sort of work schedule and boss and stuff. And so
great.
it's a lot. Yeah, like trying to do this and that and the childcare. Like I do a lot of the childcare for him too. He goes to daycare a couple days a week, but there are multiple days a week where it's just me and him, and I love that. But it does mean time has just never been more precious. So there's been, you know, I do a lot more night sewing, you know, like after 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. when he goes to bed. I like depending on how much energy I have, I just decide to come out here to the studio and do what I can. And you know, I have to be a little more protective of like how many orders I take, and just to know that I can get things to people in a reasonable amount of time, given my job, and like you know him getting sick and not going to daycare, and then a whole day of sewing is gone or whatever it is. But it's also given a lot of like having him has been really inspiring for the business as well, at least for me. Like I think maybe the general public isn't as interested in kids fleece wear as I am, but I really enjoy making it and think it's really cute, and there's a lot of people out there with kids that like do like it. I think my initial followers maybe weren't expecting that I would inundate them with onesies and little hoodies. But it's been a really fun thing for me to like incorporate into, because just making the same pullover style, despite the variety of colors that I'm able to incorporate, making one style can get pretty redundant. So it's nice to have these little things to try out, and they're super cute, and yeah.
Can confirm, very cute.
Yes.
So that line of products was something that that came from you having a kid yourself?
Yeah, like I probably wouldn't have done it otherwise. And I wasn't even sure if I was going to once I had him. I was just sort of like, oh, it'd be cute to make him a onesie, and then I made one, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. And like, there's so many kids' clothes you can make, and then having it just made sense to give it as an option for people if they were interested. Yeah, it's great. I love it.
Yeah, cool. And what do you have any other products in the pipeline or that
um,
you can share publicly?
I don't have any like real secret ones. No, not really. I mean, mostly the thing that I'm working on finishing up patterns for right now is like the balaclava style hoodies that out of like the gridded fleece fabric. That I have some available for kids, but I haven't made them for finished it up for adults yet. Like I've made some for myself and whatever, but it's it's like the Melanzana style hoodie that
Yeah,
a lot of people have,
I'm
and
wearing.
yeah, I was like, I was kind of eyeing that. I
Yeah,
wasn't sure. Yeah.
it's only because I
um,
haven't bought one of yours yet.
yeah.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I'm excited to do those. It's an interesting style to like incorporate. For a while, I was like, I'm never gonna make one that's like a hood, like similar to Melly's. Like, I
Mhm.
don't want to be a knockoff version of theirs, but like, it's a good style, and I'm offering up custom colors, and they're different, and I'm not exactly gonna run Melly out of business, so
I think they're doing okay.
I'm excited to offer it up for whoever is interested in them.
Cool. Do you have any thoughts on why this microgrid fleece is such like a banger?
I don't know. I mean, some of it is just like hype, like social media stuff, people, popular hikers like wearing it, whatever. But it is really soft, and like there's R1, like the Patagonia
Yeah.
R1 jackets or hoodies, and that fabric is, it's like another style of power grid from Polar Tech, but it's just not as soft, and it has like one side of it is just a flat face, and the other side is the gridded stuff, which is pretty soft. But it's just, I mean, this stuff is just, I don't know. It's nicer than any of the other fleece that I've gotten from anywhere. So it's, I don't know, that might contribute to it. The style in general is just like pretty. It's loose fitting, and so it's inherently going to be kind of casual, and it's cozy. And like the hood style is like, you can just feel like you're just kind of in it, and like I
Yeah.
think people just like that. But it is an interesting phenomena. I don't know. I think I first heard about it from like, or maybe I think I feel like I heard somewhere that like it was popularized by John Zahorian, who's like he's like a hiker video maker who he was one of the people who started Palante. That's a small company in Utah that makes backpacks, and like I don't think he actually was the person maybe that popularized it, but he was a popular hiker that wore it, and
Yeah.
so other people saw it and yeah, wanted it because he had it,
Yeah.
and he was like an ultralight backpacker, and even though it's not even really an ultralight fleece, but
Yeah.
yeah,
But it's like a rite of passage
kind
at
of. I mean,
a
now it
certain
is like,
extent. Yeah.
especially now that you have to be in person to buy them and stuff. It's like they're pretty
Yeah.
coveted.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's very interesting because I feel like so for people who have never heard of this brand, there's a brand called Melanzana. They're based in Leadville, Colorado, and it's like a controlled substance. Like you have to go to the store and like wait in line. You can only get like one or two a day, and like they
you
only
have to
have a certain
schedule an
amount.
appointment.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is like so interesting because I feel like, Supreme and like these big fashion giants do things like that, but that hasn't been such a thing in the outdoor world. But like this small, like mom and pop shop in Leadville for some reason has become like the brand to do it. and they make this microgrid fleece. So
yeah,
yeah,
it's funny. It's cool though. They seem like good people and like with good
totally.
intentions and stuff. So it
Yeah.
seems it's all good.
Yeah, and big news, SAMBOB is about to have microgrid fleeces as well. You don't have to
Yeah,
go to, Portland,
that's
Maine in
right.
person, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah, I think, the last kind of thing I wanted to explore was just living in Portland. You know, Mappy Hour's whole thing is about, like, living in a city and still being able to connect with the outdoors. So I'd love to learn more about, like, why you
Yeah.
chose Portland and what it's like kind of finding the outdoors while also being in a more urbanized environment.
Yeah, it's interesting. So Portland, we were in Boston before my wife was finishing her PhD there, and like she didn't need to live there anymore. So we just wanted to get out of like a bigger city. So we moved up here. We had some close friends here, and my family's in the Northeast, so it was just wanted to be around here. And so we ended up here, and I mean, we loved it. I love the size of the city. There's tons of really good restaurants. There's lots of breweries. It's it has a lot of the offerings of a city and with good food. And compared to somewhere like New York City, people might beg to differ, but growing up in Western Massachusetts, this is great. And it's a great size for me as someone who loves the outdoors and loves to be able to have a little peace and quiet. And I think Portland, I recently visited Minneapolis, which was an interesting contrast as a much bigger city, not a huge city, but a much bigger city than Portland. And it made me really have a lot more sort of appreciation for what Portland has to offer in terms of the outdoors. There's a lot more small green spaces that are mixed in with the city, or at least like sort of the outskirts of the city. A lot of like there's a ton of little trails. I've still like it's hard to discover them all because there's just a lot of small trail systems, a lot of small sort of reserve like forested reserves, or I mean obviously there's tons of beaches, there's a bunch of state parks that have trails and things to explore. And it's really not that hard to get. If you drive like 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes outside of Portland, you're in pretty smallish, you can be in pretty smallish towns and find those spaces. And then of course there's also like the White Mountains. And then, I mean, Maine itself is a huge state. It's like you could drive 6 hours north and still be in Maine. And I mean, yeah, I haven't even touched like any of that. So
I mean, I feel like
it
that would take a lifetime to
yeah,
explore. Yeah.
yeah, it offers a lot. I definitely miss I don't appreciate the humidity here or the insects in the summer, but other than
Yeah.
that, it's great.
Other than that, and the winters are pretty cold too, right?
The winters, yeah, they're okay though. The coast is not as bad. Like I think inland, my parents in Western Mass get it worse, so it's all
Yeah,
good. Yeah,
yeah. Cool. Thanks for sharing that for anyone who's thinking of maybe heading up to Portland,
Portland's
Maine. That's
great.
yeah,
Yeah,
great endorsement. Cool. Well, to wrap it up, I think we're in your studio right now. Is that correct?
that's true. Yep, yep.
Sweet. Is this like your basement or like is it a
Uh,
retrofitted office? What's happening
It's
here?
it's like we call it the outbuilding or like a studio. I don't know. It's like a 400 square foot building that's not connected to our house. There's like a couple steps between our house and this house, and it's honestly it was a great selling point for this house because it's a good
Seriously.
escape from maybe a baby or just like get out here and have some quiet. So yeah, we have a lot of space for fabric and like a couple of industrial sewing machines and a couple of other sewing machines. And my wife has a desk in the corner. Um, and yeah, and more fabric. And yeah, so
Yeah.
it's a great space. All my patterns are up here.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then I also have the fleece that I made for you guys here.
Ooh, oh yeah. Perfect
So
segue.
whoever wins this, I'll be mailing this off to you.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm excited. It was super fun to make this and just sort of like I had never made like a real process video before, and so it was fun to just like try like filming, throughout the process. And yeah, it's good. So
That's awesome. Yeah, so everyone,
thanks for making me
friendly
do that.
reminder, yeah, head to Instagram, either the Mappy Hour account or the SAMBOB account, and you can still enter to win that awesome fleece for free. So get on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So to wrap it up, anything we didn't talk about or any promos going on that the people should know about?
Um, Not really. Like, I just encourage people to reach out to me, like through Instagram mostly. Just DM me, and I love just chatting with people, and always open to like, like if someone had something custom they were interested in. I usually restrict how many orders I get, but like I love working on like special projects and love trying to be like as inclusive as possible for body sizes and like one of the like big draws I think of my stuff is that like just I have a lot of colors and I want people to feel comfortable in the outdoors, and for some people that just means like having a piece of clothing on that they really like and they feel like reflects their personality or something. So yeah, just I would love to chat with you if you are interested in something. And I don't really think have anything coming up. The hoodies are going to come out sometime in the next few months, and then June last year I did like a Pride Month. Like I made rainbow crew necks, so they sort of multicolored rainbow looking crew necks, and try to get as many people to order those as I can. I do give away 20% to Equality Maine, and it's a good time to buy some colors and try to
Yeah.
contribute to a good organization for Pride Month. So yeah,
Sweet. That's awesome. All right. So we'll be on the lookout in June. Hell yeah. All right. Well, that's it from us. Thank you so much for making that custom hoodie and
yeah,
spending time on this chat, even in your crazy busy life.
yeah. Thanks
And
so much for having me.
yeah, of course. So that's it. And thanks everyone who joined and watched and is part of Mappy Hour. So until next time.
Cool.